Welcome on in to the Josh REESE Show. I am your host, Josh REESE, and this video is going to be answering the age-old question, should Carmelo Anthony join the Houston Rockets or not? And I guess it's really, should the Rockets trade for Carmelo Anthony or not? But before we get into that, please follow my friends over at Countryside Massage here in Conroe, Texas. They do really great work. I would appreciate if you gave them a follow and a like on Facebook. They are linked in the description box. Just click the description box, click the link, give them a follow and a like on Facebook. I would appreciate it. They're supporters of my work, and I'm certainly supporters of the great work that they do in Conroe, Texas. Countryside Massage. Thank you. So the video today hopefully will kind of enlighten and kind of answer some of those questions that I know myself have been getting via these YouTube channels, via Facebook, via Twitter, via just talking to random Rockets fans that I know personally in my life. Everyone is asking, should Carmelo Anthony actually join the Houston Rockets or not? The Rockets are really, really heavily after Carmelo Anthony, but should they be? Should they? Should they? Yes, but I will say no with the caveat that the Rockets should not give up too much to get Carmelo Anthony. If it costs more than a first-round pick way off in the distance or a couple second-round picks, the Rockets have been accumulating a hell of a lot of those. If it costs more than that, I think the Rockets should take a hard pass and hope that the Knicks will eventually give in and trade Carmelo Anthony for just Ryan Anderson, or buy out Carmelo Anthony and he signs a very, very, very veteran free agent deal, veteran minimum free agent deal with the Houston Rockets, which is a possibility. As the closer we get to the regular season and the closer it becomes that Carmelo Anthony really doesn't want to be on the New York Knicks, that could become an option. But there are other options out there. Carmelo Anthony could also expand his no-trade clause list and go to the Blazers or the Thunder or whoever other team is out there that could be interested in his services. So let's talk about why and why not the Houston Rockets should trade for Carmelo Anthony. And I will say the not first. As I just mentioned, you don't want to give up too much for him. And why don't you want to give up too much for Carmelo Anthony? And that is because with or without Carmelo Anthony, it improves your chances on beating the Warriors maybe 2%. Maybe 2%. If Steph Curry goes down, if Kevin Durant goes down, if Draymond Green goes down, if any one of those guys goes down, your chances on beating the Warriors with or without Carmelo Anthony increase about 100%. But with or without them, a healthy Warriors team is still going to more likely roll against the Houston Rockets. Excuse me. So trading for Carmelo Anthony and giving up a lot of assets for him really isn't something the Rockets should want to do. And it's only going to hamper them later on down the road. So it's not something the Rockets should be interested in doing. And I think another stumbling block on getting Carmelo Anthony to the Houston Rockets is Anthony has never, ever been a number two, at least in my thinking. I can't remember a time where Carmelo Anthony has been the second option on a team that he's been on. For as long as I've seen Carmelo Anthony's game, he has been the number one option, the ball dominator on all of his teams, and having him come to the Houston Rockets where he is clearly going to be a number three, that would, I think, end up driving Carmelo Anthony insane. Of course, we all have heard about Carmelo Anthony, not Carmelo Anthony, we've heard about Olympic Anthony, Olympic Melo, and Olympic Melo buys into what he is doing to win the gold. But Olympic Melo only has to play, 20 games a year? Maybe a little more than that, a little less than that? This is an 82-game season. This is the playoffs. This is, I would believe, much higher competition than Team USA basketball. Olympic Melo is going to have a harder time fitting in than I think people are giving it credit. People are really kind of accepting. They're just thinking that Olympic Melo comes to Houston, it's just fine. They have yet to understand that Olympic Melo is a different player. Olympic Melo it's the off season. He's trying to win the gold medal. It's exhibition basketball. The regular season, the NBA playoffs, that's a whole different Megillah than Olympic basketball, in my opinion. NBA Carmelo Anthony is used to taking 18 to 20 shots a game. So that Carmelo Anthony is going to come to the Houston Rockets and clearly be the number 3 option. James Harden is the number 1 option. Chris Paul is the number 2 option. Carmelo Anthony is number 3. He is going to go from being the absolute number 1 on every single team he's been on to being the number 3, and that quickly. And it's something I think people should kind of think about, because I think it's a bigger deal that I think people are letting on. I know people are going to be out there and they're just going to comment on this video and say, Olympic Melo, Olympic Melo, Olympic Melo. But Olympic Melo plays very few games. Regular season Carmelo Anthony plays against his friends game in and game out. And I think there's going to be a little bit more pride in him to want to go ISO a little bit more, to shoot a little bit more. Ryan Anderson, unlike Ryan Anderson, who is happy as a clam to spot up and hit threes. That's his only goal. That's his only job in the Houston Rockets, and he does it very, very well. Carmelo Anthony will have to, I don't want to say cut his shots in half, because he's still going to take, if he came to Houston, he would still take a lot of shots in Houston, but it would not be 18 shots a game. The days of Carmelo Anthony scoring 20 points a game, I think, would die very quickly here in Houston. And when I was kind of looking at Carmelo Anthony and how it could work on the Houston Rockets, there are of course examples of how this would work. And the most recent example I feel is when LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh all joined together in Miami. That ended up winning a championship for them, but it took a while for them to kind of figure it out. And in this scenario, Carmelo Anthony is Chris Bosh. I think we can all agree with that. And you hear Carmelo Anthony saying, you don't even hear Carmelo Anthony yet. You expect Carmelo Anthony that he would just take the Chris Bosh role. But we don't know that yet. We haven't heard. I'm sure Mike D'Antoni would be trying to do as best he can to keep Carmelo Anthony engaged, but it's clear. LeBron James on Houston Rockets is James Harden. Dwayne Wade on the Houston Rockets is Chris Paul. Chris Bosh is going to be Carmelo Anthony. Does he want to come to Houston to be Carmelo Anthony, to be Chris Bosh? I'm mixing my metaphors here. Hopefully everyone can understand that. So I think that's something that should be looked at. And if he does want to come to Houston, if he does want to play Chris Bosh's role here in Houston, I think that is something the Rockets should look into, because Carmelo Anthony is a very good player. He's a very skilled player. He can do a lot of things. And of course, he can be another option out there when James Harden is locked down, when Chris Paul is locked down. He can do a lot of things to help you out. I just feel personally that Ryan Anderson and Melo on the Houston Rockets is just about this equal amount of importance. Ryan Anderson does a lot of good things for the Houston Rockets. He spreads the floor very, very, very well. Last year, I want to say he took the 3rd or 4th most shots from 27 feet and beyond, which helped give the Houston Rockets so much space for Chris Paul and James Harden to work in the pick and rolls. Without Ryan Anderson taking those deep threes all the damn time, you might not see the pick and rolls work so well with James Harden and Clint Capella. I'm not saying that Carmelo Anthony couldn't do that, but would Anthony want to do that as his only role? they would think of more ways to use Anthony than just that. But that would be his main role, is to space the floor. You cannot have Chris Paul, James Harden, and Anthony all on the same floor trying to clog up paint, clog up the inner circle. You cannot do that. You need the floor to be spaced, and that's why Ryan Anderson works with the Houston Rockets so damn well. And I just feel that Melo on the Houston Rockets would be very, very good, but it's not good enough to just ship off a lot of assets to get him, because I think the Rockets are going to be in just about the same place with or without Carmelo Anthony. Now, that being said, if Carmelo Anthony does come to Houston, I think there are a lot of added benefits to him coming to Houston. And that's why I would be very happy if Carmelo Anthony did come to Houston, mainly because I think that kind of guarantees Chris Paul is going to stick around. Not to say he doesn't stick around without Carmelo Anthony, but I think there's a lot higher chance for him to stick around with him in the fold. I also think that this could be what might entice LeBron James to maybe seriously think about the Houston Rockets. I wrote a story on my website. You can find that in the description box below, just about how how LeBron James could potentially pick the Houston Rockets. It's not the craziest thing on earth to think. And I think that having Carmelo Anthony, having Chris Paul, having James Harden would be enough to kind of sway James to, you know what, if I'm going to leave the Cleveland Cavaliers, I'm going to come to Houston. I'm going to win a crap ton of rings. Not 1 ring, not 2 rings, not 3 rings, 7 rings. I think that it could be an added benefit for getting Melo. But again, it's not enough to trade a lot of assets for him, because that's just a thought. That is like a 2% chance of happening. Maybe a little bit more than 2% chance, but it's not a guarantee. And that's why you cannot ship off that much to get Carmelo Anthony. So it's a roundabout way to say, because I know I was blasting Anthony and saying that there is no guarantee that Olympic Melo can play game in and game out. But I do think it is worth the risk if he does indeed come to Houston. I think there are ways that the Rockets can fit Melo to where he doesn't really have to give up his entire game. I think you could see Carmelo Anthony playing a little bit more in the second unit, maybe a little bit more without James Harden, so he can do some of the things that he's been doing in the past. If you look at ISO numbers, James Harden and Carmelo Anthony are some of the players that take the most ISOs in the league. Now, you cannot have that on the same offense, on the same floor at the same time. But if you stagger James Harden and Carmelo Anthony's minutes, you can have that kind of offense at the same time. So you can, not at the same time, at different times. So you don't have to be like Carmelo. If you come to Houston, you are only going to take 3-point shots. You can kind of sell it to Carmelo like, if you come to Houston, when you play with James Harden, you are going to be our Ryan Anderson. You're going to be a stretch 4, a stretch 3, a very, very small 5. You are going to take a lot of threes, a lot of deep threes alongside James Harden and Chris Paul. But when those guys are off the floor, or when James Harden is off the floor, you know what? Go ahead and be ISO Melo. It's just fine. I think there are some ways to make Melo happy with the Houston Rockets, and I do think that is that's enough to kind of give a little bit of a gamble to pull off this trade and make it happen. As long as they don't have to give up enough, as long as it's just Ryan Anderson and a couple second-round picks, maybe a first-round pick. I might be able to be talked into that, but 2 first-round picks for Carmelo Anthony, that's ridiculous. I know he sells a lot of value, but that's just ridiculous. It's not something I see the Rockets doing. So I think that the Heat's model, I was saying motto, the Heat's model did work. And while they did not have a Warriors team that they had to beat at the time, it did work, and I think that it's something that could work in Houston if everyone is willing to buy in together. And I think that you saw Chris Paul take a step in that direction. You saw James Harden take a step in that direction with both these guys joining powers. And if Melo comes to Houston, you might be able to see him take a step in that direction too. But again, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a monster decline for Carmelo Anthony. He has been used to scoring 20 points a game, and it's going to be tough to see him score 15 points a game, 12 points a game, 14, 16 points a game. It's going to be tough to see that. Last year, James Harden had 18 field goal attempts, the same amount as Carmelo Anthony. If he comes to Houston, he will not have 18 field goal attempts. I can tell you that. And as much as the Rockets want to get Clint Capella involved, this offense is going to have a hard time finding shots for all these players. It's going to be really tough to kind of work around. I see James Harden's numbers slipping a little bit, but I don't see them falling off a cliff the way I see Carmelo Anthony is falling off a cliff when he comes to Houston. So all this that I talked about was a roundabout way of saying that I think Carmelo Anthony would be a good enough risk for the Rockets to take at the right price. If you give up too much, I don't think that risk is worth taking. Hopefully, this will get resolved. Hopefully, this will get resolved in the way that maybe the Rockets don't even have to ship off Carmelo Anthony. Maybe he comes to Houston as a buyout. I think that's what everyone should hope for, that Carmelo Anthony comes to Houston as a buyout candidate, because then I think all bets are off at that point. I think Carmelo Anthony on the Houston Rockets, as currently constructed with Ryan Anderson, still not enough to take on the Houston Warriors, to take on the Golden State Warriors and beat them. But I think that team, healthy, really gives the Golden State Warriors a real run for their money. You would shift Carmelo Anthony to the starting lineup, shifting Ryan Anderson to the bench, which makes the Rockets' second unit insane, very tough. And you still don't have a Kevin Durant of sorts, but it would be very tough if the Houston Rockets get Carmelo Anthony via buyout and are able to keep Ryan Anderson. So I'm gonna stop rambling. I know this was more of like a little bit of a podcast. I hope people kind of enjoyed it. So it's pretty much all I had. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it. Feel free to share it with other Rockets fans. I'd love to get a lot of different opinions out there and let me know what y'all think. I would appreciate that. If this is your first time viewing this video and you've never seen my happy smiley face or this YouTube channel, please give it a subscribe. Hit the alert button, because I'm always adding up new content. Do a lot of Astros videos, Rockets, and Texans videos as well. Sometimes have some wrestling stuff every once in a while. So feel free to give it a subscribe. Also, if you do not follow me on Twitter, I am on Twitter at Mr. Joshua. You can follow my happy smiley face on there. I would appreciate that. If you have not followed my friends over at Countryside Massage, I would implore you to stop this video right now and do so. I would appreciate that. And lastly, let me know your comment. Are you team Carmelo Anthony? Are you not team Carmelo Anthony? I would love to know what everyone's opinions are out there. I know a lot of people, as I mentioned, have been wanting to know my opinion. So this is your chance to tell me your opinion, to vent to me, and we can have a discussion on here via YouTube, because I'm always responding to everyone's comments. I like to know what people are thinking. But that's all I got, guys. I appreciate you for giving this a watch, and gals. I should say thank you, gals, as well, because I was looking at the comments, I was looking at the analytics of all my videos, and apparently there's about like 9 to 13% of people, women, who watch my videos. So ladies out there, thank you. I appreciate it. Double guns. That was awful. Bad take. I can't really edit it. This is all live video. It's not live, but it's recorded live, so I don't do any editing. Now I'm starting to ramble. I'm going to bounce it out here, guys. I appreciate you for giving this a watch, and we will come back next time. Until later, see you.